I'd like to talk about another word that is misused, in fact, bastardized, and bastardized for a purpose, to weaponize the term, to use it improperly, to accuse Israelis and Jews in general of conduct that does not fit the real term. And that term is genocide. Israel is repeatedly accused of having conducted a genocidal war against the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank since the beginning of Israel. And it is just a misuse of the term. It is patently false and untrue. So let's talk about what the actual meaning is. First of all, the term genocide is defined as acts committed with the intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. So there are two elements. Excuse me. The noise is my dog crawling under the desk. There are two elements, and you may recall I'm a lawyer, and we learn first year of law school, you take a criminal law course, and you learn the basics of criminal law. And any crime requires two elements. And the two elements are the act and the intent. The Latin terms, and you've taught this in law school, the Latin terms are actus reus, which is the act, and mens rea. Mens rea is mental state, the requisite intent required for the particular crime, which may vary. And so genocide actually has two components. I said it's acts committed with the intent to destroy a national, ethnic, racial, or religious group. So those are, again, you have those two basic elements. You have the act of destroying a group, but the intent to do so. If you don't do the act, even though you have the intent, you haven't committed genocide. And if you kill a group of people, but without the intent of committing a genocide, you don't have a genocide. So you have to have both. So let's look at modern day examples, and there are examples going way back in history. The worst, of course, is the Holocaust during World War II under Adolf Hitler. And it was the intent to destroy all Jews. Hitler called it his final solution to the Jewish problem, to eliminate the Jews altogether. And in point of fact, he killed over 40% of the Jewish population around the world. In the 1970s, in Cambodia, 1.5 to 3 million Cambodians were killed under the Khmer Rouge regime of Pol Pot. In the mid-1990s in Rwanda, 1/2 to 3/4 of a million of the ethnic Tutsi population, 60 to 70% of the Tutsis, were killed in what was absolutely a genocidal intent. Israel has never intended to wipe out the Palestinians. Never. It has only acted out of self-defense in response to terrorism and breaches of the border. If Israel did have the intent to kill all the Palestinians, they could easily do so, and without setting foot of a single soldier in Gaza, because they have the air force strength to just go in and drop bombs and wipe them all out. They could easily do it and haven't. In fact, to put it in perspective, despite the numbers that have been bandied about since October 7, when Israel went in to try to eliminate Hamas, the numbers vary, but let's say it's 40, 50, 60,000 now. That's not civilian population, that's total. How much is civilian can be debated, but probably 20, 30% or more, 20, 30,000 or more are enemy combatants, members of Hamas, or people voluntarily aligned with and fighting for Hamas. Now let's put that in comparison to the total population, Palestinian population of Gaza. In 1960, 13 years after Israel came into existence, 12 years after, the population in Gaza was only 265,000. By 2000, the population had grown to over uh, 1.1 million, about 1.1 million. Currently, the population in Gaza is over 2 million. So to suggest that Israel has been engaged in a genocide is just patently false, just untrue. Again, to compare it to the Holocaust, only now, some 3/4 of a century, more than that, since the Holocaust, only 3/4 of a century later, has the Jewish population of the world recovered to its pre-Holocaust levels. Now, let me give you an example going back to the idea of intent. You can have the intent, but not perpetrate a genocide because you just simply have been unable to do so. An example of an unrealized genocidal intent is actually the other way around. Arabs and Palestinians toward Jews. And to be clear, not all Arabs, not all Muslims, not all Palestinians feel this way. But a significant percentage would like to eradicate the world of Jews. And this goes back to well before World War II. But during World War II, one of the Arab Muslim Mahdi's, Mohammed Amin al-Husseini, met with Adolf Hitler. And they discussed their shared desire to exterminate the Jews. The Iranian regime is another example of a regime that had as its goal the eradication of all Jews. And I say Iranian regime with measured purpose. The Iranian people themselves do not feel this way. They are controlled and dominated by an extremist government, and that government has as its objective the extermination of Jews. And then, of course, we have Hamas. And Hamas is simply a puppet of and financed by Iran, and it has as its goal the elimination of all Jews. In fact, Hamas was founded in 1988, and it is in Hamas's founding charter to exterminate all the Jews. So those are the facts. And again, I'm going to implore you, do your own research. As always, don't take my word for it. Be a critical thinker, be an independent thinker, go learn for yourself. And in doing so, there's another benefit. When people just tell you things and you try to absorb it, you don't necessarily retain it all, and you don't retain it for as long. But when you do your own research, when you dig and look for yourself and you have a little bit of energy and time vested in it, you learn the lessons better and they stick with you and they have more meaning.